Our story takes place long, long ago, about 2,500 years ago, in the northernmost part of India, in what is now the country of Nepal, in the foothills of the world's tallest mountains. There flows the river Bhagirathi, through which it is said the Lord graciously gave water to the earth. South of the Terai Basin, on the bank of this beautiful sparkling river, was the capital of the kingdom of the Shakya clan, called Kapilavastu. The name of the king of this country was Suddhodana, and the queen's name was Maya, respectfully called Maya Devi. One day, Maya Devi had a prophetic dream. In a celestial abode called Tusita lived a bodhisattva,
one dedicated to attain enlightenment.
In her mystical dream, Maya Devi saw this bodhisattva who had taken the form of a white elephant enter her body. And indeed, after this dream, Maya Devi was in fact pregnant. King Suddhodana and Queen Maya Devi were full of joy while awaiting the birth of this baby. Maya Devi decided to return to the home of her parents in Devadaha, capital of the kingdom of the Kolya clan, to give birth to her holy child.
In Nepal, near the border of India, close to the city of Devadaha, is the Lumbini Garden. In the month of Vaishakha, this garden is full of the blossoms of spring flowers, bursting into bloom everywhere, carried on soft, gentle breezes. The songs of birds and fragrant scents fill the air. This is a really beautiful flower garden. On her way to Devadaha, Maya Devi stopped at this garden. First she went into the garden pool to bathe and to purify herself. Then she walked a path in the garden which was covered with flowers. When she came to a beautiful Ashoka tree full of fragrant blossoms, she touched one of the branches. At that moment, under that tree, Gautama Buddha was born. On Mount Meru, the gods and goddesses, hearing this good news, were very pleased and were dancing with joy. The sage Asita saw this, wondered at it, and inquired, "What has happened?" The gods and goddesses replied, "The incomparable treasure, the Bodhisattva, has taken birth in human form for the welfare of all, sentient and insentient alike. He is the highest of all beings. Because of his compassion for the sake of the world, he will show us the eternal path." As soon as the sage Asita heard this, he set off to see King Suddhodana to confirm it.
It is said that after Gautama Buddha, Shakyamuni, was born, he immediately walked 7 steps, and pointing upward and downward, he said, "In all that is above, in all that is below, there is only I. That I is most precious."
In our present understanding, this I means divinity, inner self, or one. Actually, in the scriptures of early days, it was said people praised him as the greatest in the world, but later it was changed and it became, he spoke of his own greatness.
Then warm and cool water showered his whole body. Heavenly nectar gently rained down everywhere, causing fragrant flowers to burst into bloom all over the earth. This baby, shining brightly with a golden light, was named Siddhartha. 7 days after Maya Devi gave birth to Siddhartha, she passed away. Then her younger sister, Mahaprajapati, became his foster mother and raised this precious baby with love and affection. When the sage Asita arrived to see the king, he saw the precious shining baby and he began to cry. Seeing the sage crying, the king was astonished and asked him, "What do you see in this prince? Is something wrong with him?" "No, no," he answered. "This baby is very great. He will reach the highest realization for the sake of humanity, for all the world. He will set in motion the wheel of Dharma. But I am very old. I don't have long to live. I am crying because I will miss this rare opportunity to hear his noble teachings."
Prince Siddhartha grew up strong and healthy and was a very graceful and handsome boy. He was a good student, and he studied all the things a prince has to know to rule a kingdom. But he would also often spend time under a shambhu tree in a field, thinking and reflecting. One day, while Siddhartha was sitting under the tree, he saw a farmer working in the rice field. He also saw the ox laboring in the field, exhausted, dragging the heavy plow behind him and panting. As the plow dug up the soil, worms and insects crawled out. As they wiggled about, many tiny chirping birds descended. As the chirping birds began to nibble on the insects, they would squirm around helplessly. Then large birds, seeing the tiny chirping birds, flew down from the sky like arrows, grasped the tiny birds in their beaks, and flew away with them. This situation, which we cannot control, is a world where the weak are victims of the strong. This law of nature led the boy, Siddhartha, to think even more deeply. He felt great compassion for all creatures. Thinking about these things under the shambhu tree, he became totally absorbed. Seeing that his son was becoming pensive and indrawn, the king worried very much and urged him to spend more time in play and other enjoyments. He sheltered his son from the sight of woes and sorrows because he worried that his son might renounce the world as the sage Asita had prophesied. One day the prince left the palace by the east gate. On the road, Prince Siddhartha saw an aged man, decrepit, bent over, leaning on a cane, tottering as he walked. He asked,
"Who is that man?"
His attendant answered,
"That is an old man."
"What is an old man?"
the prince asked. The attendant replied,
"The old man was once a youth, strong and full of energy, but gradually, year by year, his body became weak and stiff. That is an old man."
The prince thought that this was very strange, and he asked,
"Is he the only man whom we call old?"
"No, old age will come to all of us, including you and me."
This encounter with the old man made him very thoughtful. On another day, Siddhartha left by the south gate. On the road, the prince came upon a sick man, suffering, stumbling, and lying on the ground. He asked,
"Who is that man?"
His attendant answered.
"That is a sick man."
He asked again,
"Is his name Sick?"
No, no, this sick person was once a healthy man, but when someone becomes sick, he feels pain here and there and is unable to run and work as he used to. That is a sick person."
The attendant replied, but the prince couldn't understand, and he asked again,
"Is he the only sick person?"
No, no, sickness comes to all of us in time, including you and me.
The attendant replied. Prince Siddhartha returned to the palace and became even more pensive. Seeing this condition, his father, the king, was very worried, and again urged him to spend more time in enjoyment of the world. But the prince again left the palace, this time by the west gate. In the distance, the prince saw someone carrying an inert and lifeless body. The prince was surprised and asked,
"What is that?"
His attendant replied,
"That is a dead person."
The prince was very much surprised, and again he asked,
"Is that the only dead person?"
No. The time of death will come to all of us.
Hearing this, the prince was full of sorrow. Then the prince left by the north gate and came upon a shaven-headed man, dressed in the simplest of plain clothing and without any other possessions. But his face emanated serenity, contentment, and joy. Siddhartha asked his attendant again,
"Who is that man?"
His attendant replied,
He is a monk.
The prince asked,
"What is a monk?"
A monk is one who has renounced the ordinary pleasures of human life for the purpose of spiritual realization.
These episodes made a deep impression on the young prince and made him wonder if there might be a way to go beyond the sufferings of life and attain supreme peace.
But Siddhartha still had to pay attention to the many duties of a prince. At the same time, his father, the king, tried to make the prince's life as rich and beautiful as he could, and he tried to keep away all sights of pain and suffering. There was a pond in the garden of the castle at Kapilavastu. In the pond, lotuses, blue, red, and white, were planted for the delight of Prince Siddhartha. In Kashi, the highest quality clothing and a perfume of beautiful fragrance were made especially for him. Morning and evening, in hot and cold weather, attendants protected the prince with an umbrella from dust and mist. The prince had 3 palaces, one for the summer, one for the winter, and one for the rainy season. In the palaces, he was surrounded by beautiful, vibrant playmates of his own age, and musicians played melodious music for his pleasure. The gentle and handsome prince was highly educated and also excelled in sports. In time, he married Princess Yashodhara, and she lived with him happily in the palaces. But even though he was always with the beautiful princess and many lovely women, his mind could not be absorbed in the pleasure of it. Instead, his mind yearned to spend time in meditation.
Even though Prince Siddhartha had everything to please him, nothing could satisfy him. The existence of pain and suffering as the lot of all beings in this world weighed on his mind. In time, Yashodhara gave birth to a son named Rahula. Siddhartha was relieved that he had an heir to the throne and decided secretly that now he could leave the palace to seek a deeper meaning of life. He was 29 years old at that time. Siddhartha took the help of his attendant, Chana, and the white horse, Kantaka, both born on the same day as himself, when everyone in the palace was asleep, without waking Yashodhara, sleeping deeply beside him. Siddhartha left secretly. Those in the palace had no awareness of what was happening. Siddhartha said to Chana and Kantaka, "The time has come. Please take me away. I want to leave this palace to find the way beyond pain and suffering for all humanity and the way to the highest enlightenment." Hearing these noble words, Kantaka jumped for joy and danced with delight. At dawn, Siddhartha, sitting on Kantaka with Channa, rode into the forest. He removed his jewels and ornaments and asked Channa and Kantaka to take them back to his father, his mother, and his wife. As Siddhartha proceeded through the forest alone, he encountered a hunter with whom he exchanged his elegant silk clothes for the hunter's coarse plain clothes.
Please do not worry. Later on, after his enlightenment, he went back to the palace to see his family, his wife, his foster mother Prajapati, his son, and the rest of his family. His son and the rest of his family all became his disciples.
Siddhartha, now plainly clothed, went under a tree, shaved his head as a sign of renunciation, and threw his hair to the sky. Indra, who was there at that time, caught his hair and informed all the gods and goddesses about the renunciation of the prince, which was a very noble moment in the world. The gods and goddesses gathered to celebrate this great moment, and so Prince Siddhartha became a monk known as Gautama Buddha, or Shakyamuni. He went to Rajgir, the capital city in the greatest kingdom of the time, Magadha, in India. It was rare to see a monk so beautiful, noble, and pure. As Gautama went begging, King Bimbisara saw him and asked his attendant to follow Gautama to find out about him. After begging for food, Gautama went to Mount Pandava, where a large group of monks were gathering. Hearing about all this from his attendant, the king then went to the place where Gautama was sitting like a lion in a cave. He sat down there, saluted the monk, and said, "You are so beautiful, shining, and noble. You look like the right person to rule as a king over all the world. I want to offer you all my property and my army with its large troop of elephants." Gautama said, "O king, there is the kingdom of the Shakya clan in the snow mountains, which I renounced. I do not seek to follow any desire, as I have found that every desire has a limitation. I renounce the world because I think that there is surely a path leading all humanity beyond the sufferings of our lives, and I am determined to find it."
So this young, noble monk, Gautama, traveled about India seeking to learn the way to absolute peace. He went to the sage Alara Kalama, who was an expert in meditation. His objective was to realize a state of non-possession. Nothing is mine. Gautama begged him for this teaching, and immediately he was able to understand it and know the truth about it. Alara Kalama was very much surprised at the wonderful abilities of Gautama. He treated him as an equal and expressed his respect. But Gautama understood that this path did not lead to the goal of supreme peace. Then Gautama went to the sage Udaka Ramaputra, the son of Rama. This sage's objective was to realize the state of neither thinking nor not thinking. Gautama begged him for this teaching, and again he was able to understand it immediately and know the truth about it. Udaka was astonished at the wonderful personality of Gautama. He assigned him the position of a teacher and expressed his respect, but Gautama understood that this path also did not lead to the goal of supreme peace, and so he left. At that time, there were 5 ascetics who, seeing that Gotama was greater than their own teacher, followed him into the deep forest to practice austerities with him.
On the bank of the river Niranjara, in a beautiful glowing sunlit spot, Gotama continued to struggle to find the way to eternal peace, free of all suffering. Thinking not to inconvenience others, he chose not to beg, but he subsisted only on fruits and nuts that fell from the trees and roots. One day, the devil Namuchi approached Gotama and said, "You are very thin, and your complexion is like that of a dead body. If you were healthy and vigorous, you could do whatever you want. These austerities are wasting your time and energy." The devil followed him about, repeatedly whispering his temptations, but he couldn't lure Gotama, who was ever watchful. Gotama spent his time in solitude and never talked to anyone. Month after month, he practiced various austerities, standing without sitting or lying down, then crouching down only, or always standing on thorns. Then, year after year, he sat continuously in one spot. His body became unkempt, his hair became long and full of snarls, and mold grew on his skin, which he did not notice because he was absorbed in deep meditation. He began by eating only one meal a day, then only one meal a week, then only one meal every 2 weeks, and finally he ate just 1 grain of rice a day. His body became only skin and bone. His complexion resembled the color of the ashes of a dead body. As he drank water, he prayed that he would not harm even the smallest creature. So, for 7 years, he tried to cultivate a heart of love and compassion.
From The Great Master by Swami Saradananda.
We do not get as detailed an account of Buddha's sadhanas as of his detachment from the world, his leaving home for the purpose of becoming an anchorite, and afterwards of his establishing the Dharma Chakra, the wheel of religion. However, a little of the history of his spiritual moods is available, like the case of other spiritual heroes. It is recorded that abstaining from food and drink and taking a firm resolve to succeed, he was engaged in practicing austerity and meditation for 6 long years without leaving his seat, and that controlling the internal vital forces and practicing meditation, he entered into samadhi. His biographer has also tried to vivify his struggle against the latent impressions of the mind by introducing the story of his fight with Mara.
In the forest, Gautama did severe austerities such as no one had done before him or since. Even though he did so for 7 years, he found that he could not attain supreme peace and the wisdom which goes beyond suffering. Exhausted, he came down from the mountain, went down to the river Niranjara to purify himself in order to carry on his spiritual practices. But his body was so frail that when he went to take his bath in the river, he was too weak to get out. At that time, a tree on the river bank seemed to reach down kindly with its branches so that Gautama could pull himself out of the river. Near the river was the village of Sena, and about this time a young girl, Sujata, came from there to the place where Gautama was sitting under the tree. she saw the frail and wasted body of Gautama and offered some pious rice pudding to him. He gratefully said, "I have practiced many extreme austerities, and thus I have learned about the sufferings of the people. Now I accept this offering, not out of desire, but so that with this body I can attain the highest realization, the supreme peace, and share it with all human beings." But the 5 ascetics saw him accepting food from the girl and said, "Greed has grown in his mind, and he's given up his austerities." They deserted him and left him alone by the river.
Then Gautama went to the place which we now call Buddha Gaya. There he made a resolution. I will remain on this spot, seated here, absorbed in meditation, until I attain enlightenment. Even though this body may decay in the effort, so Gautama sat under the Bodhi tree alone and pondered, "The world is full of pain and suffering. There is no life without suffering. Why do we keep on suffering? What is the cause of this suffering? How can we remove this cause? Is there a way out of this suffering?" He meditated, going deeper and deeper, until the eye of wisdom, which sees reality, opened in him. The greatest wisdom appeared in him, the light appeared in him, and the eternal shining light shone in him. He attained supreme enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Light shone all around him as he sat for 7 days in a state of joy. An arrogant Brahmin happened to pass by, and on seeing Gautama Buddha, he was surprised.
Now, we want to see this part 2. I want to show this year till enlightenment. So after that, we want to see, but just time is limiting, limited, and already we are late because of the technical problem happened. So we are late. So now we want to do part 2 about Japanese Buddhism, which I explained to you. So please enjoy.
Mount Aso is the largest active volcano in Japan and is among the largest in the world. It stands in Aso-Kuju National Park in Kumamoto Prefecture on the island of Kyushu. Its peak is 5,223 feet above sea level. Aso has one of the largest calderas in the world, 15.5 miles north-south and 11 miles east-west. The caldera has a circumference of around 75 miles. The crater of Mount Naka the west side of which is accessible by road, contains an active volcano which continuously emits smoke and has occasional eruptions. Only the northernmost crater, the first crater, has been active for the last 70 years. The present Aso caldera formed as a result of 4 huge caldera eruptions occurring over a range of 90,000 years, 300,000 years ago. The caldera, one of the largest in the world, contains the city of Aso. Ejecta from the huge caldera eruption 90,000 years ago covers more than 600 square kilometers and roughly equals the volume of Mount Fuji. It is presumed that the pyroclastic flow plateau covered half of Kyushu.
No, you can. You see, the shape of this mountain is like the Buddha, who is in Mahanirvana. He is lying on the ground. This photo was taken before the eruption of the volcano about 4 years ago. But this shape is, you have to see this face and chest both, and towards the right side feet goes. So really on the ground, Buddha was lying on the ground. Really, you see.
The eruption which formed the present Soma occurred approximately 300,000 years ago. Aso Jinja Shinto Shrine, established 281 BC. There is a story in which there was a huge lake inside the outer rim of the volcanic crater. The god of Aso broke one portion of this outer rim of this volcanic crater, so that water in the lake could come out from this area, and he taught the people how to cultivate farms there. This is from the outer rim of a volcanic crater. The old burial ground, ancient tomb of the king, is in this area. Aso-san Saigon Denji. In 726, one monk from India opened this temple on Mount Aso. He established
About 1,300 years ago, already Indian monk came this area, means this place, and he established this temple. That time, actually, 36 ashrams and 52 hermitages to practice Buddhist austerity. So that time here, a lot of Buddhist sadhakas gathering together. And this area itself is very interesting to see. The people who comes from this area is very spiritual and very enthusiastic. We have in Vedanta society in Japan, we have many devotees from this area, and they are very sincere. So I have some associations, so I have the chance to take the photos of these. Thank you.
the temple at the cave On the west side of this crater, with Avalokiteshvara, Konyan, with 11 faces. Since then, for 1,300 years, they are praying for this crater to be calm and peaceful. This building, established in 1889, but even though there were many volcanic eruptions, nothing has been affected. Now the people believe in the power of this God who has the power to protect people from difficulties. Stupa. Nitatsu Fuji, 1885 to 1985, was born at Aso. He practiced at Nichiren Shu. He met Gandhi and was influenced by him. He brought the relics of Buddha here at Aso from India in 1954. Through President Nehru, this was given here at the foothill of Mount Aso. Horyuji. In Nara Prefecture in 607, the Suiko Tenno, the emperor, and Prince Shiotoku Taishi, the prince, established this temple, the oldest wooden temple in the world. These are very dynamic buildings. Shiotoku Taishi is very well known because he was the devout devotee of Buddha and established this Buddhism all over Japan. Todaiji Temple was established in 733. The emperor, Shomo Tenno, for the peace and welfare of his people. In 747, they started to make this great Buddha. This image, Rushyana Butsu, is another different name for Shakyamuni Buddha, who realized the truth of the universe. The meaning is the Buddha who lights up the world, who is shining. His left hand shows the wisdom of the universe, his right hand shows his compassion. In 752, the image of Buddha was opened by an Indian monk. In 758, this building, this temple, was finished and established. This is a huge campus where the people could study about Buddhism and its philosophy. They wanted to give the monks a chance for study and education. In 1567, they were burnt in the war. In 1709, they re-established this building, 2/3 smaller than the original. The teaching. Everything in the world is connected and balanced. Emperor Siomu Tenno prayed for the welfare of all, including all animals and plants, and prayed for the children's life shining into the future. So he expected all the people's contributions for this temple, even only one blade of grass or one handful of soil. So this Buddha was really made by the contributions from all the people. Nigatu-do, 8th century AD, it was established, but this present building was established in 1669. Once a year, we can see the beautiful festival. They take the water from the well, which comes from Wakasa, which is on the north area, near the ocean. In 751, one sage was practicing sadhana in the mountain. He found the cave and entered. He found a Devaloka inside, and the people there are doing the rituals for repentance to the Avalokiteshvara. Through grace, the people there were getting blessings. So he wanted to do the same ritual in this world. They run with huge flaming bamboo sticks with pine trees. Very rare and dynamic festival in March.
Tendai Monastery, located on Mount Yei in Otsu, overlooking Kyoto and Otsu, Beaver Lake, which is the biggest lake in Japan. The temple complex was established by Saicho, who lived between 767 and 822, also known as Gengo Daishi, who introduced the Tendai sect of Mahayana Buddhism to Japan from China. Enryakuji is the headquarters of the Tendai sect and one of the most significant monasteries in Japan.
I want to explain now. This Tendai sect is very similar to Hinduism. They have Bhakti Marga, the path of devotion, to practice the repeating the name of the God, Lord. And for example, Pure Land, Jodoshu, Jodoshinshu, Nichirenshu, etc. They came from this Hiesan, Mount Hie, and they have another Jnana Marga. They really established the theory of Tendai sect, which is similar to theory of Hinduism. Really, almost same. And Tendai philosophy is very well known in the world. And they have the Karma Marga also. They do the ritual, means Homa fire, puja, almost same. So I think came from India and almost similar to Hinduism, very similar. And they have the Raja Marga, means to watch the breath, and meditation, etc. Tendai Zen is very famous, and Tendai and Soto Zen and Rinzai Zen, those all came from this Tendai sect. And so we want to see, now I come to know, many Americans knows about Soto Zen, Rinzai Zen, and Nichiren Shu. They quietly spread here in US also. So many people knows, but actual headquarters of Japanese Buddhism is here in Mount Hiei, Enryakuji Temple. And
Japanese history. As such, it is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The founders of Jodoshu, Soto Zen, and Nichiren Buddhism all came out from the monastery. And Ryakuji is also the home of the Marathon monks. The Buddhist monk Saicho ordained 100 disciples in 807. Maintaining a strict discipline, Mount Hiei, his monks lived in seclusion for 12 years of study and meditation. Enryakuji's current structures date from the late 16th century through the first half of the 17th century, when the temple was reconstructed. Today, most of Enryakuji's buildings are clustered in 3 areas. Manjoro, gate of the entire area. Todo, the east pagoda. Saito, the west pagoda. And Yokawa, the monastery's most important buildings are concentrated in Todo. Todo is the original place. Konpon Chudo, a national treasure, the most important temple in Heizan, and which was established in 788 by the patriarch Gengo Daishi. The hidden Buddhist icon, Uchi Yorai, which is said to have been carved by Gengo Daishi, is enshrined in the temple. It has been continuously illuminated by vigil light for 1,200 years. Kaidan Inn, an important temple where monks take solemn vows and accept the Mahayana religious precepts. The temple was established in 828 after Gengo Daishi passed away. The temple's main building enshrines the icons Shakyamuni Buddha, Manju Bodhisattva, Miroku Bodhisattva. In this temple, Mahayana Buddhism officially declared its independence from Nara and Hinayana Buddhism in Japan. But this building was reestablished in 1678. Konpan Dojo, training hall of Tendai Tantric Buddhism, planned by Dengo Dashi and founded in 862. The hall was burned down once during an attack by Oda Nobunaga, but was restored 400 years later in 1987. Hoke-so-jin,
Amida-do. Daikodo, important cultural asset, a dojo, a training hall, for academic training which is held every 5 years. The former building was burned down in 1956 and in 1964 reestablished. The main icon is Dainiti Nyorai. On the side are the founders of many sects who practice their own sadhana, Heizan. Manpaido. Here they pray for unity and peace in the world. Saito. Saito is a 20-minute walk away. Jodo Inn. This is the mausoleum of Dengo Daishi and the most sacred area in Heizan. Dengo Daishi passed away in 822 and was entombed at this location in 854. The priest protecting the mausoleum is required to strictly follow Buddhist precepts, to make a pledge to stay on the mountain for 12 years and devote himself to training and to serving Dengo Daishi.
One thing I want to explain about this Saito. There, the rituals is going on about 1,200 years for about 1,200 years. It means puja we do always in the temple, almost same, to offer the food, 3 meals, and for under the many restrictions. So I think Japanese Buddhism came from India. So from India, I think, but in India it's easy to do the ritual because hot country, so it was not so problem. But in this area is very cold, icy cold. But they follow that ritual. Means before the puja, means before the ritual, they do the shower, and it was so hard for them. So this serving to the Lord, means founder, is the main their ritual. So that is very similar to us. And normally one monk is serving for 12 years rotation. So very austere. This is very famous in Japan. At most austere and very hard practice among the Buddhist sects. So just I wanted to explain about this.
Shokado, the oldest building on this mountain. In 1596, it was reestablished. The icon is the standing figure of Sakya Nyorai, created by Dengo Dashi. Jo-gyodo and Hokkaido. Main icon, Amitabha Buddha, who is constantly in samadhi, Jo-gyodo. They do not sleep at night in these temples. They do constant japa the whole day long, every day. When they have to rest, there are only poles to support their body. Chubaki-do, Camellia. This is the small temple located in front of the Nyorai-do. Its name is derived from an episode in which, when Taishi visited Heizan, he thrust a camellia branch he was using as a cane into the ground. And this branch then took root and grew to cover the whole area. Eshindo, the birthplace of the Japanese Jodo Pure Land sect. Eshin Soza Genshin, the author of Ojo Yoshu, written in 985, and the person who established the basis for the Jodo sect, practiced Nenbutsu Zanmai training, which encourages believers to pray devoutly to Amitabha Buddha for the first time. Yokawa. Yokokawa is more isolated and less visited, about an hour and a half walk, and is most easily reached by bus. Yokawa Chudo, the main temple of Yokawa. This building is like a stage, like a ship on the water. The main icon is Avalokiteshvara. The main building in Yokawa, established in 1848. Although this building was destroyed in a fire after being struck by lightning in 1942, it was reestablished in 1971. Shikikodo. It is also said to have been the house of Jie-Rogyen, Gansan Daishi, who is referred to as the patriarch of the resurrection of Heizan. At that time, plague spread through the country. Many people suffered. Gansan Daishi wanted to help the people who were suffering, so he stood in front of the big mirror and he meditated. Meanwhile, his body in the mirror changed into the figure of a demon made only of bone. Among his disciples, only one could recognize his figure in the mirror. So Daishi asked him to make woodblock prints. He ordered the disciple to make many talismans and to distribute these to the people and put them on the door of each house. Since then, demons do not approach the houses which have this talisman at the doors because they are afraid of this figure of Daishi. So for more than 1,000 years, the people have been trusting this talisman, even now, until this modern age.
Then we'll hear a few words from Swami Sarvadevananda. Maybe 40. But they won't see anything now because you have to sit here. And what's the hold it? Because the microphone is on the computer. I'm sorry. We're just learning and we don't know quite how we're doing.
Here it will happen. Huh?
You can see your voice. See, your voice is showing. No picture, only voice.
Only.
Sorry.
Okay, good.
Nothing.
So, last more than 1.5 hours, we are thinking of Buddha and its impact. Buddha's life is very important for us to think about how it can relate to our present day problem of facing the pandemic. Dukkha, suffering is there, that we all know, we are experiencing it. And we know, Buddha says there is way to get out of this suffering. And he himself established a religion called Buddhism. And we are surprised to see, only we saw the impact in Japan. What is the impact all over the world? And Buddha's lesson is so realistic and it is really life changing that the temples have come in odd areas and they have been destroyed and then again with fire, then again came up, and day and night people are meditating, people are chanting to uplift their condition from this duality, the world of this reality to the another reality. So we have to learn. This is a very auspicious day today, Buddha's birthday. We all know Buddha was born on this auspicious day, and Buddha had the illumination, Bodhisattva attainment this day, and also it was his departure from the mortal frame. That was so. It is thrice blessed day, and Buddha means renunciation. Buddha means heart, love. That's all embracing love for whole humanity and whole creatures and animals and everything wherever human, any existence is under his fold of his love. So this is the conquering our suffering, conquering our death and disease, is to lift ourselves into this Buddha consciousness, to be living in that way where the whole world is embraced as one. So we pray that by the grace of Buddha and our own sincere effort, we attain to that nirvana state, the state of freedom, freedom from all dukkha, all suffering, all anxieties, all pain, and all apprehensions of future birth and death. God bless us, Buddha bless us. Thank you. Jai Sri Rama Krishna, Jai Holy Mother, Jai Swamiji. Thank you.